Hi there. I'm tired from work, so forgive the tired looking face. And I've had a nice glass of wine, so please forgive that as well. But it helps one relax. Uh, in the story, in the previous pages, I wrote a strong note in my Bible. I always write notes in the Bible because I have several of them. And notes help me remember what my thoughts were at the time. So I wrote a strong note that gossip kills groups, that is, communities. These families, they're harming each other by saying things that are rude about each other, and each rude thing grows into a bigger offensive thing, into anger, and then fear of violence, and that's what's happening. So I'll just read through the story, and we just see it as an exciting story that is historical. That means it happened in a certain way that's described here, picking out only the main events, and the events that they chose had the most importance. So I'll read them and perhaps discuss them at the end. So prepare, I'm going to read 2 pages now. Jacob sent his messengers on ahead to his brother Esau to the district of Seir in the Edomite country, and this is what he told them to say to Esau. My lord, your servant Jacob says, I have been living with Laban and have stayed there till now. Laban was also there in Abraham's time when Jacob's father Isaac was sent to their relatives, and I think Isaac also married a cousin. So, yeah, we've discussed that before. Carry on. I have oxen, asses, and sheep, and male and female slaves, and have sent to tell you this, my lord, so that I may win your favor. The messengers returned to Jacob and said, Jacob's sending them to Esau because even though it's 30 years later, he's still afraid of Esau being, as Jacob had tricked Esau out of the great blessing that his father wanted to give to Esau as the older son, even though it was only an hour older or something, or a minute older. It was a trick that was unfair, and this type of selfish behavior has always been Jacob's behavior. So he's quite a bad character, but I think at the same time he's quite a good character as well. He's not any worse than that. You could call him a trickster, but not a murderer, or uh, not a thief, but perhaps he's a liar and a trickster. The messengers returned to Jacob and said, We met your brother Esau already on the way to meet you with 400 men. Jacob, much afraid and distressed, divided the people with him, as well as the sheep, cattle, and camels, into 2 companies, thinking that if Esau should come upon one company and destroy it, the other company would survive. So he's a clever chap. So that at least is a good trait that he's got, as I've said before, from Abraham. Abraham, his grandfather. At least it helps him survive. At least he would be a good merchant. He's able to survive in the world with enough to eat because he's clever, shrewd as a businessman. You can look up that word if you like. It's important in the New Testament as well. Because there's a parable called the shrewd manager. Jacob, Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, O Lord, at whose bidding I came back to my own country, to my kindred, and who didst promise me prosperity, I am not worthy of all the true and steadfast love which thou hast shown to me thy servant. So he's praying in a sort of grovelling way, and we shouldn't grovel to God. I was taught as a young man by my mother, because, well, she didn't say why, but I guess it's because God has got a better plan than what we think God has. And so when a human is groveling to God, that is it's a sign that they're ignorant of the true plan of God. There is a parable of asking God again and again and again, which is allowed because it's showing that you are not so clever as God, and so you're asking for help sincerely and honestly and with a lot of determination, which God does appreciate. And actually, God likes a person to find out what God wants, with great, determination. And yeah, you might think, well, I know better than that. But the point is about being a believer in God of any type, of any shape, form, or anything. You believe that God made everything and is greater. Like this, the beauty of this seed here. That's from an onion. Would you believe it? Right, we'll try and finish before we run out of time of data. So he's praying this grovelling prayer. I am not worthy of all the true and steadfast love that which thou hast shown to me thy servant. When I crossed the Jordan, I had nothing but the staff in my hand. Now I have two companies. Save me, I pray, from my brother Esau, for I am afraid that he may come and destroy me, sparing neither mother nor child. But thou didst say, I will prosper you, and will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which is beyond all counting. That is because he said that to Abraham, which God did trust Abraham. Of course, nobody has been perfect, even though Abraham has been quite amazing. Even he wasn't perfect, and there are points where he had the chance to be perfect and wasn't, and so do we. We are not perfect, even though we have the chance to be perfect. But we're learning. This is the whole purpose of this teaching. Next paragraph. Jacob spent the night there, and as a present for his brother Esau, he chose from the herds he had with him 200 she-goats, 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 milch camels with their young. That must be something to do. A milch camel may be a camel specially for breeding new camels, young camels. So that's 30 milch camels with their young, 40 cows and their young bulls, 20 she-asses and 10 he-asses. That's donkeys, old word for donkeys. This is a 1980s translation, which I like very much. You can see that it's not in two paragraphs, it's in the one paragraph, so it's easier to read. And it's in English, as in the country of England where I'm from. It's an English translation, an English translation. During the night, Jacob rose. Oh no, I went too far forward. He put each herd separately into the care of a servant, and said to each, Go ahead of me, and leave gaps between the herds. Then he gave these instructions to the first. When my brother Esau meets you and asks you to whom you belong, and where you are going, and who owns these beasts you are driving, you are to say, They belong to your servant Jacob. So I'll just read through this very quickly, because you get the gist. It's obvious what he's doing. They belong to your servant Jacob. He sends them as a present to my lord Esau, and he is behind us. He gave the same instructions to the second, to the third, and all the drovers, that's people who push the animals forward, all the drovers, telling them to say the same thing to Esau when they meet him. Esau, I just remind you, if you don't know the story well, is his older brother, who's a strong, free-willed, but easy-going, happy-go-lucky man. But he's a great hunter, so But yeah, he's made a great success of his life. And there's a comparison I'll make in the next video, not with Esau and Cain, the bad guy Cain, Abel's brother who killed his brother, but with Jacob, surprisingly, because Jacob is selfish and Cain was selfish. And Esau is not selfish, he's happy-go-lucky. But he behaves like a tough warrior like Cain behaved. But actually, he doesn't behave selfishly. Jacob behaves selfishly, like Cain. But Jacob isn't a tough guy, whereas Esau is a tough guy. So I continue. And they were to add, your servant Jacob is behind us, for he thought, I will appease, that means make peace with him, pacify. I will pacify him, I will appease him with the present that I have sent on ahead, the gift. And afterwards, when I come into his presence, when I meet him, he will perhaps receive me kindly. So Jacob's present went on ahead of him, Jacob's gift, but he himself spent the night in Mahane. Now, I think that Mahane is, it sounds exactly as in the previous video, Mahanaim, which is where